this video, I want to show you how to create a dynamic chart in Excel. So as you can see here, I'm trying to create a chart for this range that I have. I'm trying to track revenue trend for revenue, cost of goods sold, variable fixed and net profit expenses. But you can see here on my range, I only have data through August. But when I go and I create a chart in Excel, so for example, I just select all my ranges here and I go to insert, and then I just select any chart. I'll just select one of their recommended charts. So you can see here, this chart here, it shows automatically all the data, even the range that I don't have the data for, right? It shows me September to December, but I don't have any data. I want it to be dynamic. I just want the chart to show me only chart or a graph based on the data that I have, like something like this on the right. So you can see on the right is dynamic because I only have data from January to August, and you can see here it only shows January to August. Anything without data from September to December, it completely did not even show it because there's no data. And that's what I want. So for example, on the right, if I increase this to November, you can see it expand, right? To show me November because I have data for November. But what if I reduce this, right? And I have 2 months. It will just show me 2 bars because I don't have data for 2 months. Here, it will always show you all of the from January to December, which is not what I want. And this is valuable to have because if you're doing presentation or you're creating dashboard and you want to make it dynamic, this is it makes it look more professional. So let me show you how to do this. So there's 2 ways to do this in Excel. One way is you can use the filter formula, another way is to use offset. So the filter formula is easier to use. It's the easiest way to do this. Offset's a little bit tricky. And why would you want to use offset? Well, if you don't have a later version of Excel, because filter is only introduced, I think, after Excel 2021. So if you have Excel 2021, you can use the filter method. But if you have an older version, then you have to use offset. And there's trade-offs. So let me show you which is, I don't know which will be better for you, but you can see when I'm demonstrating this, and then you can see for yourself which is best for you. Okay, so let's first do an example of filter. So filter is the easier of the two, but the problem with filter is you need to create a helper range. You need to create a reflection of your original range, basically, with data in it. So how you do it is first you have this data up here, right? But you go to insert, say insert, and you make a chart here. It will just show like this, right? Everything show up. You don't want that. So what you need to do is you need to create a helper range, okay? All right, so to do a helper range, you just need to go somewhere that is blank, and make sure you give it a lot of space because it can expand and contract based on your original range here. So for example, what we need to do is I'm just going to go to this B16 here because I have enough space, and I'll just put in filter. And filter, it needs to know an array. Basically, what is your range that you want it to filter? So I'm going to select out this whole area from B4 because that's where January 2025 is. That's where the start is. And the end would be M9 because this is where the last data for net profit is, okay? And then the next thing that filter wants is that it's like, what is the condition? So the condition that you need to give it is this first piece here on revenue, okay? Because the condition I want is that if revenue is not blank, right? If I have any data in revenue, I want to display it. So basically, I'm going to say not equal to 0, right? And then close bracket. Then you can see it shows up, right? So now it's just a formatting issue that I need to fix here. So this one is probably just a format. And then here I need to format this to become a month and year. So I'll just go do that real quick. Format this. Okay, now that looks good. And then here I just need to make it equal to here. This is just description. Okay. And so basically, when I add more data here, you can see the range. It just follows, right? You can see that. Cool, right? All right. So let me just delete this real quick. And then here, I'm going to select this whole entire range and select it all the way to the end, to December, because this one can expand. Right now, there's no data here on M16, but eventually, when you enter in data for December, right, like over here, oops, actually, let me show you. Eventually, when you enter data, right, December is going to pop up. When you entered all the months, December is going to pop up over here, all right? So what we need to do is, let me just delete this real quick. So we'll just select all the range through December, as if like December is already populated. Go to insert, and then just pick any chart you want. So here I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to pick this stack column chart. And as you can see already that it's dynamic, because here it only shows me up to May, right? But all the other months, June to December, it's not showing up, which is already dynamic. So let me increase this. See, it's working now. Okay. The trouble with this again is that you need to create a helper range, and then you only enter in your data into the original range. You cannot enter it here, because you enter it here, it's going to give you an error or spill, right? So, okay. So that's how you would do it in Excel using filter. And you can do this same process with Google Sheet as well, okay? Alright, so the next step I want to show you is using offset. Offset's a little bit difficult. It's just a lot more steps. But this way, I would say, in a way, it's also interesting because you don't need to create a helper range. You have to make a name range for each of this description that you have here. Okay? So first, what you need to do is go and create name ranges for each of this, and then from there, we need to put those name ranges into the series itself, okay? Excuse me. So, what we first need to do is create the name range. So go to Formulas tab here, and from there, go to Name Manager. So here, I already create a few, but if you start out and you never opened this before, obviously this thing will be blank. But what we need to do is create a name range. So let me show you how to do that. So we need to create a name range for the month, the revenue, the cost of goods sold, variable expense, fixed expense, net profit. So total we need to create about 6 ranges. Okay, so what we need to do is go to new, and then we need to give it a name. So I would just do demo 2 underscore month. Okay, and this name is important because you need to give it this exact name on the series itself. So let me show you later, but just the name is important, okay? So just make sure you remember that name, or it's fine not to remember, but you need to make a snippet or a copy of this name so you can write this exact name on the series itself. Okay? And then here, what we need to do in this refer to, we need to write an offset formula. So offset, it needs to know what the reference is, the row height, the column, the rows, the column, the height, and the width. Okay. So what we can do is go to offset, write offset here, and then this is for the month. So where's the reference? So we need to start it at January 2025. So that's our first header, right? January 2025, and then from there, we don't want any rows or columns. And then the height is 1, and then this is where it makes it dynamic. So here offset wants to know the width of this range, right? So counter, we need to add in counter. Counter, basically it's looking at a range and tell you if there's how many of those range or cell that is not blank. So in this case, when we do this counter and we select this whole range here for revenue, okay, from B6 to M6, is basically asking it for this range here, how many of this cell in this range is not blank, and it will return 6, because from here, or 7 actually, from January to July we have data, so it should return 7, okay? And that's how it tells the offset function that it needs to expand, 7 to 7, Okay, so I'll just close this real quick. So basically how offset is reading this is that it's saying, we start on this here, so B5, and don't move any rows or column because we put 0 there. And then create a range that is 1 row tall, which is this 1 row tall here, and then expand 7 columns wide. That's basically what this formula is doing. And as you can see here, I have this reference as B5. So you might ask, okay, why am I not doing the counter up here? But I'm doing counter, I messed up the formula. But I'm doing counter on row 6. And the reason why I'm doing counter on row 6 is because this is where you enter data, right? So this header here is always going to be fixed. It's going to be January to December, no matter what, right, for the whole year. It's this that's dynamic because as you have more data, you enter in data. So like August come, right? You enter data for August. If it's July, you don't have data for August. So that's why you need to use counter on this row 6 instead of row 5. Okay? So I think I messed this up. So let me rewrite it again. So let me show you. So again, we need to do offset, right? And then this is where it starts. Remember, this is for the month. And then no rows, no column. Height is 1 row tall. And then width is when we put in counter. And it'll be this piece here. Okay. And then close. Alright. Alright, so let's do one more for revenue. So revenue, we need to do the same thing. So go to new. You can just copy this as well on the month here. If you don't want to write the whole thing out. Right, so let's go to new. Here you need to just put in the name. So I'll just do demo 2. And then I'll just do rev. Okay. Here I'll just paste this. But here the reference is no longer B5, it's B6, right? Because this is where the start of revenue is. So I just like change it to B6. Same thing here. 0, 0, 1. Counter would be 6 because this is where revenue is located, right? Then I'll just hit OK. Same thing with cost of goods sold. So you have to do everything here similarly to revenue. So cost of goods sold, let me show you. I've done some of this so that I can show you how it works. So then cost of goods sold, same thing. You just do offset. So you do B7 because this is where the start of cost of goods sold start, right? The value starts at B7. And then 0, 0, 1 row tall. And counter is also in this one as well. See, when you highlight it there. And I've done the same for the variable expense. So variable expense, you just give it a name, right? Offset, start at B8, right? And then 0, 0, 1, counter, and then M8. Same thing, okay? And then you just do one more for fixed expense and then net profit. And once you have those, you need to make a snippet, or if you remember the name of it, then you're good to go. But I usually cannot remember what I wrote, so I'm just gonna snippet it, right? This is the exact name that you need to put in. So I'll just close this out. Okay. And here's my snippet. So I'm just gonna copy this. I'll paste this right here. Okay, so if you accidentally close it out, how you can go there and get a snippet again is just go to formulas, go to name manager, and here are all your saved name ranges. Okay? Alright. So now what we need to do is create a chart. So just highlight this, all this section here that you want the chart to show. Go to insert, and then I'm just going to recommend it, and then insert this. Again, it just looks like this, but we're going to fix it. Okay, so now after you've select the range, insert a chart, now just click on the chart and then right click and then go to select data. Okay, and I'm showing you this on a Mac, and I'm pretty sure on a Windows it's the same process. But I think some of the buttons might be a little bit off, but just be aware, I'm showing you this on a Mac. It's the same process, it's just some of the buttons might be, or the area might be a little bit different, but same process, okay? So data chart data range. So basically this is a range for the whole entire chart. So you see it's already selected there. So here you can come here and select whichever you want to have it shown on the chart. Okay, that's your range. And then here, the Y value, notice I select revenue, right? So this piece here, this name or this legend entry matches this piece, which is good. And then here is the Y value. And this is where we need to input the name range that we created. So in default, it'll just take this range here, right? But we want to give it another range that we created. We created a dynamic range using offset. So now we need to put that name range here. Okay, so how we do that is we just clear out this piece here and go to equal. What it needs is that it needs to know the name of the Excel sheet itself. So the name of the Excel sheet I call is demo. Okay, so let's go. So whatever your Excel sheet is, type the name of your Excel sheet name up here. Okay, demo, right? And then dot XLSX. It just means that it's Excel file, then exclamation point. And now this is where you go and you put the range that we created. You see this demo 2 revenue. That's what we created for the revenue range. Remember we created the offset, right? To make it dynamic. So you go to demo 2 underscore rev. Okay? And then here, the horizontal value is where we can put the header. So this piece here, once you select it, you see it's a header here. But we also created a month, a dynamic month range, right? So now we need to go here. Just give it demo again. The name of the Excel file, dot XLSX, exclamation point. And then here you go, demo 2 underscore month. Okay. Month. All right, so now you have to do this here, the Y value for each of this piece here. This one is fine, this one will be fixed because all of this rely on this header. So we already give it this new dynamic header name. So now we go to cost of goods sold. So you can see this is the same, right? It's the same on revenue or cost of goods sold. Now revenue, since we already added this Y value here, we can just make a copy. We'll just change the name. Okay, I'll go to cost of goods sold, paste it here, and instead of revenue, COGS. Right, that's what we name it. So cost of goods sold there. Same thing with variable expense. Come here, paste it, change it to variable. Right? Did I spell that wrong? Variable. Okay, there you go. And then fixed expense, same thing. Paste it. Fixed. And then net profit, same thing. Paste it. Net profit. So this is definitely a more involved version or way of doing it, but I would think it's a very interesting way to learn more about Excel. This is just another option to do it, and then just hit OK. And as you can see here, it's dynamic now, right? Earlier it's not, but now it is. So now if I increase this, you can see it becomes dynamic, right? So this, yeah, it takes a little bit more time, but here you don't need to create a helper range. You need to make all those range. You have to create each of the range one by one into the name range, right? So that's one way to do it if you like to have fun with Excel and do the more advanced way. You can use this way to do it. But if you prefer something, easier, then you can use filter, right? But if you don't have a latest version of Excel, you have to use offset. If you have a later version of Excel or Office 365, this one I would say is less time consuming. Okay. And also in Google Sheets, it works the same way. You can just use the filter formula. So let me show you here. Same thing here. You just use the filter. You can see I just did the filter here. Same thing. And then I just highlight the range here and then create insert a bar chart or column chart. All right, I hope that was helpful. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.